Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Homefront Harmony. And I am excited today because we're bringing back two of my favorite guests as a couple, giving us that perspective, that family dynamic, military family itself. So please welcome back to our show, Brian and Maggie Jensen. Hello.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
I am excited too. I love it, love it. No mamming.
Absolutely.
We have talked about this. No mamming.
Habits are hard to break.
Jesus. I appreciate the respect.
Yes.
Not that old yet. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about this. Now, you served for a period prior to actually meeting and marrying Maggie.
Yes.
The transition from your life as the single service member to the, hey, I'm actually in love with somebody and having them on this ride with me. What was that like for you as the service member?
It was, I think it was something I was kind of prepared for when I say that I was, when I say ready to settle down, it was kind of like I'd been around the world and back again. I'd been living in Europe for 11 years. I moved back to Kansas City, met her, and we were pretty much together from day one. So it was great for me as far as I was kind of like, this is the next chapter of life. I'm ready to turn that page. And so not that it didn't come with challenges. Obviously, we got married in July of 17 and October of 17. I was back in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And between the time that we got married to when I left, we moved from Kansas City to Savannah, Georgia. I went right into the field for an exercise to get ready for Afghanistan. I think I got out of that field hunt for 3 weeks. And then after 3 weeks, I was off to Afghanistan. And that's how we spent 9 months of our first 12 months married.
Well, that's one way to do it. That's one way to do it. Now, and I'm coming to you, I promise. Now, so for you, it was, what was it about Maggie that was like?
Oh, yes. Let's talk about this.
Her favorite story.
Who tells it better?
Oh, of course, me. Because,
okay, then tell me.
This is the third time this week alone, I think, she's asked me to tell her this
I love
story
it.
and all
Okay,
that.
tell the story.
So I was actually meeting another buddy. His name is also Brian. He was a contractor in Afghanistan, meeting him to actually watch a Chiefs playoff game. And literally, she was managing the restaurant. And as we walked in, he had been in earlier in the week and met her as she was covering down for a manager. And so when he was like, oh, yeah, that's the manager that's covering down Maggie. And I was like, damn, I'd marry that girl tonight. Has that story changed at all in?
No, it's the same story. Same lines.
Uh-huh.
But what was it? It wasn't just how I looked, I don't think. And I've made sure of that. I'm
Yes,
like, it wasn't just the looks.
Obviously, when you don't meet anybody, obviously there was the visual attraction right away. And then she came up to the table, talked to him real quick, and then he introduced us. And then she kind of made the question of, hey, what do you do, for a living? I was like, I'm in the Army. And she was like, oh, and right away she was like, well, what's your MOS? Well, normally people aren't asking what your MOS is unless I know a little bit about the military.
He's like, that's hot.
So I was like, yeah. So I kind of got she put me on my heels at first. And I was like, I'm a 13 Alpha. And she was like, what's that? And I was like, oh, it's our field artillery officer. And then right away she was like, ooh, officer. And I was like, crap. Okay. Yep, I'm an officer. And she was like, my dad was in the military and he's retired, enlisted and all that. I was like, oh, cool. And she's like, so where'd you go to school? And I was like, oh, man, here we go again. I was like, I went to West Point. And she's like, oh, West Pointer, where's your ring? And I was like, oh, geez, all right. So she was stabbing me hard and giving it to me, which was awesome. It was fun. I was like, all right.
That's his love language.
There you go. He likes a little fire and sass.
Yeah.
Likes a little fire and sass.
So, yeah.
And it's funny because, Maggie, you and I met, first conversation we just jump in. That's kind of how we are. That's our personality of who we are to it. And I could see how he would appreciate that because that's not like the world he comes from.
Yeah.
That perspective to it. And then the fact that you actually had the military experience as a brat, it was like added a level to it too.
I joke, and I think we said this before. We were talking about this before when I said, what's your MOS? And then he was kind of jibber-jabbering, and I stopped him and I said, I'm tracking. And those two phrases are obviously very military culture phrases. And I think that's when the heart eye emojis were just like.
When did the heart emojis go for you?
It was being, the restaurant that I was managing was Hooters. So I was used to kind of these men who were regulars. They were coming in kind of Hooter girl hunting, so to
Yeah,
say.
we talked about that before.
They were kind of preying on us young ladies, and I didn't get that energy from him at all. I felt very comfortable with him. I felt like he had his shit together. He just seemed like a man with ambition, but also a track record of, I set my mind to something and I actually achieve it, and that was incredibly sexy.
Yeah.
And although, you know, I say he's very stoic, which is different than me. I'm like, my heart is on my sleeve. You can read my emotions automatically. He's very stoic. So it was almost the opposite attract. I really was drawn to his calm, cool collectiveness, even though if I did tease him a little bit about it at first. But I was really drawn to that. And so it was him having his shit together. Also, I think just the familiarity of the military life. I knew what it entailed. I knew, you know, and even though my dad was enlisted, my grandfather who raised me a lot of my childhood was retired general. So I understood the officer end of the deal too. And I just respected him a great deal. I think it was the culture of how I grew up. I was like, well, he's obviously a really amazing man if he's had all this career success with the military. And even if I give him a hard time about it, I respect his pathway with West Point, being a ring knocker and all of that. Even though I teased him, it was very attractive to me.
Very cool. Notice how she didn't speak anything on the visual. We're all going to act like she didn't notice his shoulders at all.
I was just thinking, I was like, you know, we could call those.
I know Maggie a little better than that. Okay.
I mean, he was buff.
Right? I'm just saying, my husband, I was like, ooh, broad shoulders. Hi.
Yes.
How you doing?
Something about that, you know?
There definitely is. And I would like to apologize for bothering you all on a playoff game day when I know that your Chiefs are playing. 'Cause my husband's leaving work early tonight so he can get home to watch the Washington game.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's leave me with football, we know. So we'll get this quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, for watching my parents experience what they experienced, being he was enlisted, they started out young, they went in. You guys had established careers, had kind of established lives when you found each other. What do you think that did to help benefit when you did decide to get married and have a life together and partner in this fun ride?
I can tell you, for me, it was nice that she knew the background of the military. So when I was telling her, even one of the times where I was going, hey, I got to go TDY for a week, I started to explain to her what TDY is. It's like a business trip, and she right away, like you said, she was like, I know what TDY is. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going TDY for a week. And it was like, cool, where are you going? I was like, oh, I'm Fort Bragg. Awesome, have fun. Wow, this is super easy and super chill that she kind of speaks the lingo already with it. So that helped out a ton. The fact that she kind of jumped on right away and was like, cool, like my job, or aka her job, she's like, my job's transferable wherever you want to go. Like I can transfer and find work there. And she was still working for the restaurant and all that. When we moved to Savannah, there was a Savannah location and she was already crushing it there and doing openings and was a team lead and all this stuff. So Savannah was like opening their arms for her to come work for them there and everything. So it was just an easy transition. She was like, I'll pick up and move and let's go. And I'm kind of used to the life. And then I think her being a strong individual and a strong woman with a strong, you know, career and doing everything she had in her own kind of personal life, as we discussed even on our first time we chatted and all that, was that when I was like, you know, hey, I got to go, whether it's I'm going to the field for a month, I have to go to Afghanistan for 9 months, whatever it was like, okay, I got this. I've got my own kind of identity, my life, my job, my work or whatever. So I can focus on that. And it wasn't the super desperate, like, oh my gosh, I'm the, say, you know, damsel in distress and my husband's gone and I don't know what to do with myself. She was like, I got this. I'll take care of this. I'll handle business. So
gotcha.
That was.
And 2 points you brought up that I think are very key of where we are is terminology. So some of the newer military spouses may not sling it quite as well as Miss Maggie does, but it's okay to ask. So, okay, when we throw out acronyms, and we do, I try to catch them all the time, just because some of you may not know, but you know, Maggie knows. So we're good on that aspect. And I love the fact that you actually were with a company that was willing to work with you and let you to continue to pursue your career growth.
Yeah.
Because there's still companies that don't quite have that figured out yet for the military spouses. And
right.
It's, you know, it's a constant battle. So the fact that you were able to do that and enhance from there, I think is huge. Because it was just such a big stepping stone in your path to where you are now. You know, the way you worked with that and grew with that to deal now. For those of you who don't know, my friend Maggie does a lot of mental health, wonderful things. She does sober. She does all kinds of stuff. So if you have not checked Magnify Maggie out, check Magnify Maggie out, please, for me. And because I think it's key. I think the military health aspect is key. The last episode, I was just talking with Judd and Nikki, and we were discussing different deployments and people do and the mental health aspect. So my parents met in between my father's 2 tours of Vietnam. And when he came back from the last one, he was one of the few that wasn't messed up like others are. I'm sure there was stuff in his head, but he wasn't as messed up as some others are. But that's not always how it goes.
Right.
But he and my mom talked about certain stuff. There was stuff he wouldn't talk about with her, which I'm sure you have as well. And that's just a personal thing. But you've got to have that support of that person to lean on. Mm-hmm. And it's vice versa. We talk a lot about the military spouse supporting the service member. The service member needs to feel like they're supporting their spouse too. They need to feel like they're adding that value too. That's a big part of the puzzle. It's not one-sided. It is a two-sided event on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Maggie, for you, because you transitioned from that career world while you guys were together into where you're now owning your own company, you're building your own brand, you're growing everything in there for you. Talk to me about how that dynamic worked with having Brian in his active duty while you're doing all this, you know?
Yeah. I think one of the major come to Jesus moments was moving from Kansas City to Savannah, still in a corporate restaurant position. I had to kind of let go of, at the time, big fish in small water market. I was doing really well. I was being recognized, and I had to say, with excitement and a positive attitude, like, we're going to go create our life together in Savannah, and I'm going to start fresh.
Right.
So I could have been very jaded about that. And there were moments that I had to shake that off, but I had to see it as a new kind of a new opportunity, recreation and things. And I think that could be helpful to any spouse who is still going on their moves and their permanent duties changes and everything. So being able to have an open mind of what's next and not holding on to the things you've created at one duty station, being able to say, okay, fresh start. And I think that's something that I got from my dad. I would actually get excited when he'd be like, hey, it's time to move. I'd be like, oh, I get to go to a new school, make new friends. So just that attitude change was what kind of helped me be successful when I hit ground in Savannah and kind of catapult that from there. But then I kind of started getting, I would say, complacent. I was hitting a ceiling. And of course, he's like now talking, I'm going to pin lieutenant colonel in the next few years. And I'm like, what am I doing? I don't want to go work in Atlanta for the corporate office, and I don't want to just continue in the restaurant. So I'm just going to start my own thing. And we talked about this of me brainstorming, like, what's something that no matter where we go, I can take with me. And it was entrepreneurship and starting something that was really near and dear to me when I was in the restaurant world. As fulfilling as it was, there was always a voice in the back of my head that was like, do you really just want to be doing this for the rest of your life? I was like, I want something fulfilling. Yeah. And I think that's what helps me support him, is having that version, that purpose outside of, I'm just here being your military spouse. Right. And I think I've met a lot of women who find a lot of resentment for their relationship because of that. They say, well, all I can be is the spouse to my hero husband, or, they kind of have this attitude of, what else can I do? And it's like, you can do anything. Yep. You can do anything. And having your separate identity, like Brian said, is what kept me from being, I hate to say it, but dependopotamus, sitting on the couch waiting for him to get home. And
Dependopotamus. I love that. New favorite word. Dependopotamus.
You have to still be able to have your own goals, your own drive, and your own reasons for getting up in the morning. And, we're, I would say, a little bit more unique even in that we don't have kids. And, we're a little bit older. I'm 34. I keep saying I'm 35, but I'm almost 35. And he's a little bit older.
She's 34.
And so not having kids to have, shaping our life, it's like we get to do a lot of fun things, even, separate or together. So,
yeah, absolutely. And seriously depend upon us. But
there's other ones too. I can't remember them.
It could be a little bit for me on that one. But what I think is awesome, and it's something that I saw in my parents as well, and I love that you guys have it. It's the dream big for both of you. My dad dreamed big for what he wanted to do in the service, just as you have for yours. And my mom had her thing. So she was a dental assistant, and it was very convenient to get jobs as a dental assistant. Now, there were a couple places where they didn't have anything with the Navy, and so, okay, she transitioned. But when he got out of service and retired, my mother went to the dentist office and then grew all the way up to where she was the office manager.
Wow.
And she was the one dealing with, and it was a high-end cosmetics one. She spoke the speak and did and it was just phenomenal to get her to see how she balanced. So understand that united as a couple working together, you both are able to have big dreams, and you're still able to achieve them both working together on it because you want that support in it. I will tell you that when we did our episode with Brian, he bragged a little about his wife. He did. He bragged a little bit about his wife and how awesome she is and what she does with her job and everything. Getting you brownie points.
I know.
But no, I love that because I think that's really a cool thing to have in that relationship. And I think that part of the family dynamic, part of the conversation we have, and especially when you get in that military world, is your pomp and circumstance. You're holding your situations, you have to remember to be you at the end of the day and be the couple that you are at the end of the day. And, that aspect is such a key to it. And I watched my parents' relationship for years, the way they evolved in it together, tag team did it. And it's so cool to see. There are so many out there that get the chance to witness that versus those where they see that maybe the balance didn't work out just right in it,
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. It happens. You don't have to be in the military to have a relationship not work out, unfortunately. That's just life.
The military just puts a little extra spiciness to it.
It's just got a little extra spin. It's got a little extra spin to it. But I will tell you, I love that you enjoyed the move because I always did.
Yeah.
My sister hated the moving. She just likes being where she is and building that substantial. That's where everything is. Like, my niece, her best friend's been her best friend since she was like 3 months old.
Yeah.
Like, kind of thing. Where I was like, cool, new place. Everything I did back there doesn't count. Let's start over here.
Fresh, clean slate.
Right?
And change is exciting, I think, to both of us. But then to other people with certain mindsets, change is very scary.
Yeah.
And I'm in a lot of, the Facebook spouse groups, and I see the posts about, I just got to this new duty station. It's been 3 months. I haven't met anybody. And I think Brian has kind of the same idea around some of the soldiers that he would see on, living in Germany. But I see it from a spouse perspective of like, well, have you left your house? Have you gone to the spouse coffees? Have you done anything to get involved, even outside of off base, outside of just the base area? Have you gone to a workout class or a mommy group? Like there is so much. And when you hold on to that last place that you were and you're like, that was the best, and now we're stuck here. It's like, well, then that's going to be the reality you create. You got to get out of your house. You got to go do stuff, like get involved. And meet people. People aren't going to just not walk up and knock on your door and be like, you want to come out and play? Like, no, you got to get out there.
And it's funny because so I'm obviously an extrovert, if you haven't caught on to that yet. And my sister is not. And she says sometimes, she's like, sometimes I really hate being an introvert, but then again, I'm okay, And so my mother used to do things like the workout class, the aerobics classes or something like that, because she got to work out. She didn't really have to talk to anybody. She get herself where she did. She's pretty extroverted, but it was an easier way to tackle that and take it on that level. My dad would actually, when we lived in Australia, the supply he handled, he had about 20 something people reporting to him. And so every Thanksgiving, and every Christmas, they came to our house. And everybody brought a side dish, and we did the turkey or the ham or the whatever. And everybody came and ate at our house. And it was a way to help encourage, because so many were single.
Right.
If they were seeing someone, they could bring the someone they were seeing or whatever. And my sister and I loved that aspect of the holidays. And when my dad moved and we lost that, we were like, well, why isn't everybody coming to our house now? It was for us.
We're so lonely.
Like, what happened?
We're used to having the parties.
We were so popular. Everybody looked at our presents. What happened? So yes, I love that. There are those ways. There are those people trying to reach out. I think it's great that you're on the support groups because, like, he gets an advantage being in the service, meeting the soldiers, getting to have the discussion with them, getting to start and get them comfortable that way, whereas the spouses don't necessarily get that introduction like that, you know?
Unless somehow they're forced.
That's
I
true.
remember there was a phase in Savannah where he got his XO position where it was a responsibility of mine to be more of a leader in those FRG groups. And that was very, it was a little bit intimidating. But it was just something I had to do. And once I did it, I was like, wow, this is a really great like system, monthly coffees and all these things.
She jumped into the deep end.
Did she?
She jumped into the deep end. Yes. With the family readiness groups, because a lot of times you start off as a young lieutenant or even a young captain and you get married. And so your spouse, we would have been married as like captains or whatever. She would have been doing this for, at that time, 10, 11, 12 years. And then all of a sudden, no, her first FRGs, I'm a battalion XO. So we've got about 1,000 troops. I'm the number 2 on the totem pole. And now, so she's the number 2 spouse, essentially, on that totem pole, if you will. So with all these spouses looking at her. And
I got a lot of talking tos about keeping secrets and not talking gossip. And I had my own little training course to go through with him.
Yeah, it was a little bit. It was just like more just the different stuff. When you have, say, again, just on the totem pole, you have a young lieutenant and their spouse goes, oh, well, I heard A, B, C, and D. Everybody's kind of like, okay, that's one of the lieutenant's wives. But when it's, say, a major, it's the XO, the number 2 in charge, and their spouse is like, hey, I heard this. Everybody's like, ooh, that's the XO's wife. That must be true then, because the only one that's trumping him right now is the colonel's wife. So I had to be like, hey, hon, like.
Are you saying gossip happens?
Yeah.
In places, everywhere?
Yeah.
Now, so tell me some things that you guys do in your relationship, keeping you guys, the two of you, focused on the couple side, because work gets heavy. Like, I won't even lie. My husband and I have to call each other out. We're on our phones on the couches at night, working, doing things. He's real estate. There's no end of the day. I'm security. Criminals don't care. So you have to kind of keep. Yeah. So what do you guys do with the military aspect now with you active duty? What do you guys have in play to keep that coupledom going?
I think a lot of things, like you hit the cell phone thing as well, too, is not only on the military active, but I'm active in like the jiu-jitsu community and the MMA communities. And I'm sure you see on my Instagram all the other stuff that I'm in my extracurricular running around stuff.
He's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. Yeah. So the gentleman himself, he is Army, so that fits. But let's see, he's active duty. He does jiu-jitsu. He is a DJ. I think he might make dresses on the side. Man's busy, okay? We're just saying he's a little busy.
So, I have all my stuff going on. She has her same kind of with clients. If there's clients that will hit her up as well, too, of like, hey, they need something or need some advice or something like that in the evenings, especially with the expertise she has in offering stuff on the sobriety and the nutrition and coaching. It's not unfamiliar that somebody hits her up in the evening and goes, hey, I'm going out to this restaurant. I'm at this bar. Here's the ideas that everybody's thrown out. What's a good idea for me to do to either stay sober or get something nutritious, et cetera. So we try to do the same thing too of, hey, let's put the cell phones down. Now it's just us time.
Yeah.
So I think everybody kind of struggles out, especially with these days on how accessible everybody is, no matter what your job is on social media, et cetera. And you sometimes go down that rabbit hole of scrolling and watching reels or videos or whatever. So we kind of call each other out on that time to time. But the big thing I think is you hear it on a bunch of different like relationship sites and books and podcasts stuff, I'm sure, is, date your spouse still. And so I think that's kind of our biggest thing is like 100%. Like we still, not that it's every weekend, but I bet you probably at least 8 or 9 out of every 10 weekends, her and I at least have one night a week that it's just us, that we go to dinner, we go walk around downtown Vegas, Summerlin, Town Square, et cetera. We go do something where no friends, nobody else. Yep. It's literally just the two of us. Every now and then, weekends get busy where it's like, I'm going to fights one night, and then I've got other friends for a birthday party, or she's got stuff going on with clients, or some women moving mountains, or some of her other endeavors and stuff like that. But then the following weekend, or even during the next week, we'll be like, okay, nope, cut it out. Wednesday night, we're going to go do a dinner, go to a show, go do something that's just us.
Yeah.
So,
I would say that the tips my mother and father always said, one, they said never stop wooing each other. Mm-hmm. And my mother said each other is a key word, because sometimes it's really difficult to feel like you're the one not getting wooed. And you got to realize, are you giving? if you're not getting back. 2, continue to date. Always date. Whether you have kids or not, you have to make it. And they said sometimes it wasn't even an expensive date. It was just going to get McDonald's. The kids had a babysitter and they got a break, kind of thing to it. And I think that's a huge aspect to keep the communication open, to keep the relationship growing, to keep it as you're going on. And then 3, she told me that one Christmas after they had us, they decided that they were going to spend all the money on the kids and not have Christmas presents. And that sucked. And so they guaranteed
I could have
from that Christmas on, they would at least have stupid, silly gifts to give each other, because you got to have something to open with your, and they were just like looking at each other like, this was a bad idea, kind of thing. And I think the ebb and flow, you learn that as you're together and you grow and you do things.
Yeah.
And we have moments we veer off and then we come back, Now, do you feel like with the transition coming up of him coming out of service, there's going to be a change in the dynamic of how you do things? Or are you thinking it's going to kind of still continue on? Because I know he's not going to be traveling as much. Possibly. We don't know. Depends on where you end up,
we'll see.
It could be a
The
possibility.
sky's the limit.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm very excited to see just like what evolves from it, because I know that I believe his stress levels will really diminish. I think that he will find just a new normal that doesn't include, I have to shave today. I have to go get my hair cut every 2 weeks. And just the normal, what has become so normalized, and his structure, and why he's so, I'm very free flowing, where he's itinerary A to B to C to D. I'm excited to kind of see him find freedom of flexibility and just fun, being able to do what he wants to do rather than what he feels like he has to do. And I think that's going to open up kind of a childlike energy for our relationship as well.
Gotcha.
More playfulness, more just like kind of, I don't want to say flying by the seat of our pants, but kind of like not feeling like
some structure release.
Right.
You still have it, but it's
exactly.
not as concise.
Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, whatever job you slide into, whatever kind of dream
Do
career.
you still want him to do the Jack Sparrow beard thing?
Yeah, I'm like man bun and grow the beard out.
Dude, I will pay so much money to see that.
Shaving his beard, shaving his face every morning since you were 18, 19 when
18.
you started prep school?
18.
So for
technically,
him,
as long as it was clean cut, there is some sort of facial hair you would be allotted. You just couldn't do the whole ZZ Top thing, is all they're saying.
No, I had a goatee through high school, and I shaved it 2 weeks after I graduated and reported that morning for basic training. So,
Dang.
yeah.
All right, fine.
so just to see his life and his interest and what he finds to be fun and exciting, I think is going to be really interesting to be a fly on the wall and watch that evolve, and then also just see how that affects our dynamic together of when he's feeling more decompressed, when he's feeling like Uncle Sam isn't knocking at his door. Hey, do you have your assignments done? Do you have your things done? Are you ready for the next course and all this? He's just going to be like, breath of fresh air. I'm manifesting that.
Yeah.
I'm manifesting
Somewhat.
that.
Knowing my father getting out, there's some stuff that's going to stay. Okay. I was just saying that it took me years to get my parents to sleep in on Saturday morning. And when I finally got them to 7 a.m., I thought I had hit like a
jackpot.
It was like, dang, because they were 5:30 a.m. Bing for years. So yeah, that was a big, but I think it's a great thing to have open discussions about it, figure out where you're going to go. So let's say that there's a couple out there, they're about to go through the transition thing like you guys are going through out there. So each of you is going to give me an answer, because I want the perspective from the spouse as well as the member of what you think is going to be beneficial for a couple getting ready to go through this so that they can hit this hurdle together,
Yep, absolutely. I think we kind of talked on the previous one about obviously the financial stuff and make sure you're financially ready, both as a couple and even as an individual, depending on whether you're married or single, and having that set and having a plan in place on how you're going to do your Soldier for Life or whatever program you're using in order to set yourself up for success on the business side. I think one of the biggest things I've seen for enlisted officer alike is people soldiers, officers, they start tying themselves, and their identity becomes their service.
Okay.
So when I say that, their rank is their identity. So I'm not Brian Jensen, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Jensen, and that is my identity. And that's how they identify themselves. And then all of a sudden, boom, it switches, and they're no longer in the service, and people start struggling. And they're like, wait a second, I'm not Specialist Smith, Sergeant Smith, Colonel Jensen, whatever. crap, I'm Joe Smith, I'm Brian Jensen. And I think that is a huge struggle that they have, is trying to figure out who they are, because they don't have that unit. They don't have that like military family around them. They don't have that structure. Now they're kind of that free floating electron, for better words, like out and about in the civilian life. And so whether they're the individual or as a spouse, that's something that a spouse can also help with, is try to help your husband or wife, whoever it is transitioning out, of, hey, there might be a little bit of a time that they're going to be trying to figure out exactly who they are for the last, whatever it is, 4 years, 20 years, 18 years. Every day of their life has been, hey, I wake up, I put on my boots, I put on my uniform, and I go to work. And now all of a sudden you're going, well, I don't have to put on a uniform. I may or may not have to shave. I don't have to put on boots. So now who am I? Like, what am I doing outside of the military? I don't have that structure. I don't have that military family around me. And so I think people kind of struggle figuring that out. So I think that's something too, that the earlier you can start trying to figure that out, of like, hey, and have that, not separation, but just trying to figure out who you are as a person, and just, you're not going to be that lost soul without the military structure. I think that helps out a ton.
Look at big bad Brian Jensen there being all gooey and emotional.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. And keep the uniform, because she might want you to put it on a couple of times.
I'll get rid of 5 out of the 6 duffel bags of uniforms.
Yeah.
Just keep the really sharp
Keep
ones.
a few.
So I'm saying, keep the sharp ones. We just had that conversation last episode too. It's no getting rid of those.
Yeah.
All right, Maggie, for you, from your perspective, talk to me about what you think.
I think the most important thing that's going to be on my docket is just to like be pressure free for him.
Okay.
He is so used to having to answer to the military.
Mm-hmm.
This is his opportunity to figure out, what do I like?
Right.
Who, like he said, his identity crisis kind of like coming out. I mean, like, who am I without my orders, without my daily mission?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not my place to be like, well, you should do this. You should do that. Because even if I did that and he ended up doing something I said, well, now he's still he's just following orders.
Yeah.
This is his time to say, maybe I like to paint.
Yeah.
Maybe I like to DJ with my Speedo on and put out reels. Like, who knows? Whatever he wants, with his man bun and his sparrow beard.
God, we're going to have so many pictures.
Yeah. Maybe he wants to start going to, I don't know, like EDM, or what is it? Like EDC, whatever the raves are, like whatever he wants to do and experiment with. This is his time, because he is devoted. I know, I mean, it's silly, but still.
I'm just seeing you in neon paint and stuff. I'm sorry.
He's going to have some bedazzles,
Right?
Pressure free. You don't have to though, babe.
Yeah. But only if you want to.
But like literally just kind of.
It'd be so fun.
Yeah. I think my job is just to kind of like, whatever he says, maybe I want to try this. It's not my place to judge or say like, really, that's what you want to do. It's give it a try.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll be a fun adventure for me too, because I'll say, well, maybe I'll give that a try with you. And I'll like that too. And I feel like we're going to have, looking back in 50 years, we're going to say we had our marriage time, our season of when you were in the military, and then we had the chapter when you retired. And that's when kind of the free-flowing adventures started. So
you're going to have a lot of free-flowing adventures, I get the feeling. I'm just saying.
I can't wait.
Hey, you know what? That's why we fall in love with who we fall in love with. Because you kind of need that to help keep you going and keep you moving. My husband is very calm most of the time compared to me, unless we're watching football, and then look out, scare the dogs too, both of us. But you have that dynamic and that ebb and flow. You do it, and you bounce it. It balances. Sometimes you're the calm one when they need you to be calm to handle. So I think that's very very true, especially military relationships. Like, you have dealt with the deployment right after you guys had gotten married, going through that, experiencing that for the first time. Now, for you being the one on deployment and having a wife at home, it was a little different dynamic than before.
Yep.
Added a little extra something,
Yep.
we'll say, to your plate.
Absolutely.
And then for you now being the spouse, and he is deployed, knowing that's a possibility, but living it is a different than knowing it's a possibility. So for you as the service member, what are some steps you've found were helpful for you being deployed while your spouse was back home?
For me, I think was finding, like anything that for me, finding a routine, kind of like Maggie said, is just being structured. It helps me kind of focus where I need to focus and when I need to focus. So we kind of had structured times where it was very different. By the time when we were married, FaceTime was around.
Yeah.
I could FaceTime, I could Skype and all that.
Yeah.
Or if you took me back to like Ramadi, Fallujah, some of my first deployments, that was nothing. There was like a phone bank you had to wait in line for hours just to get to use. I had a little satellite phone I could call my parents once in a blue moon on. Yeah. So it was a lot better this day and age that I had those capabilities and, to reach back and talk with her pretty much daily and all that. So that helped out that we kind of had the structure that I knew, hey, I woke up at this time. I went to the gym. I was actually teaching jiu-jitsu classes. My job was a little different versus the other. So
always multitasking.
Yeah. So I would get up. I'd go teach a jiu-jitsu class on Bagram, and then I'd go work my shift, conduct all our operations, do everything we did overnight. When I came off, just by luck of the situation, being on the East Coast, was honestly within about an hour of each other. Right about the time I was going to bed was about an hour after she would wake up in the morning. So usually we line that up. So I knew that, okay, cool. I would do my stuff, do my missions, get back in, get something to eat. Her and I would FaceTime, and then about the time we got off FaceTime, she was starting her day, and it was time for me to lay down for a little bit and get some rest. So I literally just rinse and repeat that pretty much 7 days a week. So I had something to look forward to. Basically, the last thing I ended every day with was getting to see my beautiful wife back in Savannah, Georgia. I'd get to FaceTime with her. Yeah, get to FaceTime with her, and then I was like, okay, I could go to rest. And it kind of like help connect back to reality from I'm not just in this war-torn area and dropping bombs and doing stuff. I have a wife and a spouse now at home, and I would connect, and that was kind of the way to end my day, or most days anyway, before I went to bed.
I love that being a happy thought. And I will tell you that I don't care whether they are deployed, if they are traveling for training, whatever they're doing. I travel for quite a bit for work. And my husband and I really work on lining up, and it's so silly. The East Coast, it's 3 hours difference. Trying to line up our schedules to be able to have a call just to hear each other's voices, let alone get a FaceTime in or something like that. It's something that you have to get scheduled and worked on and make sure that you talk and you do. Luckily, a lot of times I'm in meetings, so I can text or email with him while I'm doing, but it's just not the same as hearing the voice or seeing the face.
Yeah.
And I remember when my dad was out to sea, we got the one call. Satellite call. He'd be out for 3 months. In the middle of 3 months, you'd hear his voice, and then you missed him more because you heard his voice, and you knew you had so long until he was going to actually come home. So I love that now we have that ability with the FaceTime and the communication to help you have that, because that's a two-way heart.
Yeah.
Okay, I know I don't like emotions, but I have them in the real, and you both need that. It is an ebb and flow. It is a give and take. It is that whole, just as much as he needs to know she's supporting him, she needs to know that he knows she's there, that she sees his face, that she knows he's okay. The eyes are so telling on anyone. I don't care who you are. I can read your eyes. I study a bunch of true crime stuff and everything because of my security world. And what kills me is how many of the individuals you look and their eyes are dead. There is nothing in them. Whereas other people, you can see the sparkle, the light up, and you can see that in your spouse.
Yeah.
So with that FaceTime, you have that ability to kind of get to see that and know for sure, you know. For you, Maggie, in the perspective of the spouse, what did you find was beneficial for you? How were you able to deal,
I had some of those experiences as far as when my dad was deployed, not being able to talk as easily. When my oldest brother was first sent to Afghanistan in 2002, it was letters. So I had that experience of not having that connection. So I just felt immediately so grateful. Like it was 2017. We can actually text each other, on WhatsApp, you know, and like you said, the Face app. But then we also did like the old school stuff. I still have a box of the letters that he wrote every night while he got on duty. He started by writing me a letter and would send that off. And then I would get excited to put together a box every month and get him his cereal, like the things that he was like, I really miss these things. And so like doing kind of those old school things gave me a feeling of connection and importance. But what you said was really important. And now in hindsight, I can sense how he excelled at it was I needed to feel seen and supported because I had just moved from Kansas City to Savannah in order to be married to him and live and build our life. And it was literally dropped off the house. We went on one vacation together and then he was gone. And I felt so lonely at first. And I definitely had this attitude of, why did I move here just to have him get deployed? And like, what's my purpose here? And there were hard days where I felt a sense of resentment.
Yeah.
Where I said, well, why did I even come here if I'm just going to be here by myself and taking care of the dog? And like, what's the point? And then it was those letters. It was those texts of like, okay, I'm here. There is a purpose. I knew what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
And figuring out ways to get excited. That was the biggest, I think, kind of growing moment for me was like, get over yourself. You're a partner now, and he is so grateful. Look at all the things he's doing to show you that he's thinking about you, although he is in a combat zone.
Right.
Like,
it's not like he went to the store, forgot to pick you up.
It's not like he's like in Ibiza partying his ass off. No, he's literally
he's not
serving
DJing.
our country. Yeah. And there was another aspect, I think, also just because I was very interested in it and he was in it, like he was very on his nutrition and his workout. So that was something that we had to talk about a lot. And so finding things not just to make the phone call, but finding things that your partner is interested in and also attracted to rather. That was important. And so we would talk about, protein and working out. And like we had conversations that were intriguing, not just, how was your day?
Right.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, so.
No, and the thing I think people forget, and I want you all to always remember, is the human factor is legitimate and real. Okay. And it doesn't matter. Big bad soldier, awesome mental health expert. Negativity happens. Okay. It gets in our head. It gets in our craw. It grows on its own. It has its whole thing. It's part of why I don't like emotions, but it's beside the point. It's okay if you get it. It's the shaking it off that you need to make sure you do on it. And that is sometimes why I focus on the community, the friends, the finding the other military spouses, the finding those who've retired, et cetera, having that mentorship program, et cetera, because you need someone sometimes to shake you a little.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not your spouse that shakes you. It may sound silly. Sometimes my mother can still call my full name and I'm back. Doesn't matter how old I get. I'm back. My sister and I always joked our parents could just be like 1. We'd be like, we cool.
Yeah. Don't do the countdown,
no,
please.
Go to 3. We good. So I love that aspect of it, that honesty and that, because that is really key of where you're at and what you're doing. I mean, my father very much was a man that, like, when he went to Vietnam, he would tell you he wasn't going to die. He just knew that. He didn't know how he knew it. He just knew he wasn't going to die. He was just going to go serve his country. That was his thing to do. That was what he wanted to do, kind of thing to it. And it was just that perspective, that mindset to it. Now, my favorite story, one of many, is they would write letters to each other when he was in Vietnam, and they would get in an argument. And because of the delay of mail, the follow-up would miss the argument reply.
I remember you saying.
And they still have those. But my dad never quit writing my mom love letter up until his death. He would email her. They'd be in the same room, and the man would write a love letter on a laptop and email to her, just because he was that was his love language for her. That's how he showed it to her, And there's so many different love languages. Don't feel like if you don't write love letters, you're failing or whatever. There's so many ways to communicate as a couple. You got to find what works for the two of you.
Right.
No 2 couples are going to be the same. It's like snowflakes. Your dynamic's going to be different depending on who you are and what you're doing. I mean, your service is different than somebody else's service. So what you're going to deal with is going to be different than their others. And we always say, talk. Mental health is key. Talk. Reach out. Reach out to me, to Brian. Reach out to Maggie. Talk, please. This is safe space. You are welcome to talk to us about anything. So, Brian, now that we're going to the point where we think you're going to transition out of military service, because we've been here once before.
Yes, ma'am.
And it was another mamming.
I had to throw you off.
Es hat drive-by
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Yes,
No,
yes,
it's all right.
yes.
It's all right. I'll take the respect.
Yes, Stevie.
Yes, my friend. Bri.
Yep.
So, start giving you nicknames. Now that we're going towards this,
Yep.
for you in your head as you're strategically planning, you're putting this together.
Yes.
for your relationship with your spouse. What are some of the things that you're taking into consideration as you hit this transition?
So I think our thing is trying to make the transition as easy as possible for us as a couple is the biggest thing. And so yeah, I have my packet in right now for 31 December 2025. I'm literally just waiting for it to get signed and get my orders cut right now. So 2025 December 31st is like that's it. So
Are you going to do the bet like Nikki's shooting for Jed, where she says whether he's going to actually get out or not?
Oh no, I know he's for sure.
Okay.
He's getting out.
Okay, because she's got a little over under
As long
action
as
going
it's
on
up to
there.
him, he's getting out.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think the biggest thing I think I'm trying to do is just make the transition as easy as it is for us, and that being what worst case, what if I don't have a job on January 1st next year? And that's always the biggest thing is, okay, cool. It might take a month, 2-3 months or whatever after that. So the biggest thing for couples, you always hear people argue is finances. And
Of course.
that's kind of the biggest thing going like, okay, so looking at it and going, all right, kind of looking, I've had pots of money that I kind of set aside to help me transition stuff, say, like back to the uniforms. I've worn a uniform for the last 25 years.
Yep.
All right. Well, I
Right.
need a black, blue, brown, and, gray suit. Had those made already last year when I was in Korea, saved a little money, but I'm starting to kind of get those purchases done that I can set myself up for that.
Mm-hmm.
Looking that I know, talking with mentors and friends of mine said, hey, it's going to wait. A lot of times you won't get your paycheck for a month to maybe 3 months after you get out of the Army for that final paycheck, because they got to do all their final calculations and all that. And you kind of get one big lump sum at the end. So going, okay, do we have enough kind of on a nest egg on the side that if I don't get that job right away, can we survive for at least a couple months and get the mortgage paid and bills paid and all that? And so we've kind of got that set aside. So at least if we can get all of that stuff set up, then I think the transition should be a lot easier, because then the only quote unquote pressure is, okay, as Maggie hit, is she keeps telling me, what do you want to do? Or what do I want to do? What job do I want to take? Or what do I want to get hired to do or whatever? So I have myself a little bit of cushion for the two of us that I have time to be able to figure that exactly out. So if we're not worried about bills and all that, then the next hardest thing is just finding out what I want to do, which becomes a lot easier when that pressure's kind of taken off your shoulders.
Well, in the course of relieving the pressure, you're not going to start a new job January 1st. Most companies are closed on New Year's Day. It's going to be January 2nd.
Okay. Yes.
Just saying. Just alleviate that pressure, my friend. You don't have to have the one on the 1st. You got one more day,
I got
okay?
extra 24 hours built in.
Giving you that there, right there. Absolutely. Maggie, for you, as you guys are getting closer to this and you're watching him do what he does, how have you not modified your behavior, but what have you kind of instituted in more to show? You've talked about the pressure free and stuff. What kind of steps have you taken to help him to feel and know that,
This is actually a very, I would say, like in the past few weeks, this has really dawned on me, but it's kind of echoing what I said about the pressure-free situation is just validating his ideas and validating the stress about finances, validating his concern about what job am I going to have lined up. My nature is to go into coach mode and be like, babe, if you're worried about it, you're going to block the idea and you need to be in the high vibe. And that's not his shtick,
Really?
So I know.
No.
So I am just going to say, that is a really good question, babe. I wonder what you will do. I can sense how frustrating that must be, or like how worried you must be, because you are thinking about the finances and you just want to take care of our family. And so instead of me jumping in to try to save the day and give him advice, he doesn't need that. And so it's, as much as I want to say, babe, you're going to be good. Let's plan for you to take a break from work until March. Like that would be my idea, is like him having 3 months again to just relax, sit out on the patio, smoke a cigar at 10 a.m. if he wants, like whatever he wants to do. But when I say that, he's automatically running numbers and also thinking like, well, when am I going to do my jujitsu? When am I going to DJ and all these things? And so I'm just going to let him, I'm going to be going with the flow.
That's good.
That's
good.
It's like whatever he wants to do, go do it. But, I think over the next 12 months, I'm going to learn how to communicate through those worries of his, because I'm sure I'm going to get sick of him being like, what's going to happen? I'm shake him by the shoulder and be like, we're going to be okay. Make a good out of this, don't be so afraid of it.
I'm so going to show my age, but have you seen the movie Airplane? When the woman's freaking out and everybody takes turns smacking her?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, some of those moments. I'm a fixer, so I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
You come to me with a problem, I'm going to fix it.
Right.
This is what I'm going to do. This is why I work well in security. I want to protect everybody. I want to take care of everything. Why I don't work well in security is because I can't technically protect everybody and I can't technically fix everything.
And how hard is it on your own psyche to feel like that's all your responsibility? And then if it doesn't get fixed, then you're blaming yourself. And it's hard.
I got so used to growing up with a military household. And to a point, I like the way the military functions, the strategic planning, the layout works for me. It's good. It makes me happy. In the corporate world, it doesn't all work that way. And so I'm traveling this last week. The fires are happening in Southern California. I'm having to put my business continuity hat on, work with my teams over there. Can't get a hold of some people because of power outages and stuff like that while I'm on a trip doing my other board meetings that I've on, while my other job's happening here and talking to my husband kind of thing. And it's funny because I love what I do and I enjoy it. But when something like that happens and I get stressed and I'm like, geez, then the automatic answer from everybody is like, well, then you need to quit something. And then all of a sudden I'm like, no. No.
I want to keep doing all of that. Yeah.
I can do it. And it's just crazy. But it's when it's your heart and it's your soul, you want to do it with the jujitsu, with the DJing, everything. It's not a chore for you. You love the heck out of it. It's what you do kind of thing. Even though it's your business, you enjoy greatly with the life coaching, with the fitness, with the whole thing. So those passions are great to find and to lead to. And I know that it sometimes can feel like when you're getting ready to transition, you have no idea where you're going. And my mother used to just always say to my dad, she goes, wherever you go, I go. And he knew it. That was it. Just wherever they went, they were going to be in it together. And that's what makes the adventure fun. And that's what makes it go. I can tell you right now, knowing you both, he's probably not going to be sitting for 3 months.
Honestly, like as much as I think that would be a beautiful vision, I think he would get like cabin
I think you might
fever.
get 3 days.
I would also be like, you need to
to
leave the house now. You need to go figure out your purpose in life.
We're all like, just relax, have a good time. Have you figured it out yet? Yeah. So I think that it is a dance. And I think that the key and why I love doing these kind of ones with both of you, and definitely going to have you come back again and talk about the dynamic. It really helps, especially those who are newer in it and haven't kind of grown in it. Maybe they didn't have the military brat experience. Maybe they didn't, my father chose to serve. My father-in-law was drafted. Both served their country. Just different dynamics of how they went into it. You know what? My father-in-law did his purpose. He did his time. And he was out. My dad was proud of his time in his service, and he was a lifer on it. Doesn't make either person bad. It just is the different dynamic of the way it plays. So knowing that where you are in it and your relationship as this goes, it is growth, it is progress, it is work. You are not alone, and you can have a dynamic relationship and both dream big and be super successful together as a partnership in it. So don't ever think that's not possible. Thank you both for coming in again.
Thank you.
I'm going to bug and bring you back.
Oh, we'd love to. This was fun. This was our first podcast to ever record together. So,
look at that.
Yeah, it was like a fun couple activities. So thank you for having us. And I feel like I learned some new insights of how he's thinking about his retirement today. And
thank you, Stevie.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you again for your service. Both of you, I appreciate it greatly. All right, my friends, we are at that time of the day. You know what you need to do. You need to like, share, and follow. We are on YouTube. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Pod. Please follow us. Check us out. Instagram, Facebook. I can't wait to see you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time.